Now we look at personalistic value and communal action. We are going to understand what personalistic value is according to Others-au, and then how it relates to participation together with others. The person retains its personalistic value in participating together with others in action. That's to say, in a communal action, even as the person shares from the result of the fulfillment of the communal action. Thus, communal action, when positively manifested, does not inhibit or decrease the fulfillment of the personalistic value, but rather enriches and increases it. Now, what do we mean by personalistic value? We are going to dig deep into that. When we say personality value, what does it mean? It means self-fulfillment in action. So we are going to elaborate on it as we move on. There is a mutual edification of individual persons' personalistic value in a communal action. So in a communal action, that is in an action together with other people, everybody that are jointly participating in that action, in a given action, have the right to be self-fulfilled in the action. Nobody should feel compelled to participate in an action. If one is participating in an action, in fact, if one is doing an action without participating, or one cannot even truly participate in action with others, if one is not participating out of his or her own free choice and will. So that is the point. So there is a mutual edification of individual persons' personalistic value in a communal action. On the other hand, it is possible that the self-determination of the person can be inhibited and restrained in a communal action. So when somebody is not participating in an action with others by his or her own free choice, then the person loses his or her self-determination in that action with the other. And that causes, and there are things that could cause and this or inhibits this proper participation together with others. When this takes place, the person no longer performs action, because an action, there's a difference between an action, so for one which following the scholastic tradition, there's a difference between operare and actus. Now, operare is the action we're talking about. It's the action that involves the individual as a free, autonomous agent. In other words, you plan it, you decide to do it, so it is a voluntary participation, something that is voluntarily executed. So that is the action we are talking about. We're not talking about involuntary one. So for an action to truly be an action, the person must freely choose to participate and choose to execute it. When that is not involved, when one is not freely participating in action, then the person has lost the dynamic of self-determination. What they call the efficiency of it, has lost its determination. The person is being coerced to participate. So when this takes place, the person no longer performs actions. So the person is not like, more or less, something is happening to the person instead of the person performing an action. Due to lack of efficacy, which is as a result of the inability to exercise freedom. This rather shows that it is something happens to the person. So there's this distinction between mere happening and action, operare. So mere happening is when you are doing something not out of your own self-determination, out of your own free will, then something is merely happening to you. But when you are executing an act out of your own free will and free choice, then you are participating in an action. And this is very key, because most times we have some persons who are working, who every morning they wake up, they have to go to work, even though they are not happy to be there. But due to some external constraints, for example, I need to go to job, I need to work, I need money to pay my bills, to take care of my needs. But the person is not happy going to work with others in that company. The person is not happy to go. A student, you don't want to study, you don't want to go to school, you don't want to be in the campus, in the university, you want to do something else, but because your parents or social, constraints and cultural situation, you felt that you have to be there. So every day you wake up in the morning, you are going to a place of work which you don't want to go, you don't want to participate with such people there, your colleagues there. You go to school, you don't want to be there, but you keep going there. So you are going there out of your own free choice. You have other constraints, either income, either because of social structure, design. Then you find yourself doing things you freely do not choose to do, and by so doing, something is merely happening to you. You are not actually participating in that action. And this is very key. We have been mentioning personalistic value. What is it? Now let us look at the notion of personality value from the perspective of Karol Wojtyła. Now, personality value, self-fulfillment in action together with others as a right of a person. Self-fulfillment in action. In other words, every individual, when in action with others, has a right of self-fulfillment. I have the right to actualize myself in every action I participate with others. In other words, I should not feel constrained or coerced in engaging in any action with the other. When I thus participate without my own free choice, then I lose the personalistic value. Now, Wojtyła adjusts that personalistic value, that is self-fulfillment in action. So when we say personalistic value, we mean self-fulfillment in action is a right of a person. I have a right to be self-fulfilled in my action with the other. So I should not participate just to please the other when I don't feel self-fulfilled. So when, for whatever reason, I engage in any action without my free will, without my self-determination, then I am acting contrary to personalistic value, that is self-fulfillment in action. I've lost, or I am losing my right of self-fulfillment in action. The person has the right not only as intrinsic in its nature to perform action, but more so to be self-fulfilled in the performance of action. So it's a right. And sometimes we don't know about it. We're not conscious of it. Now, Wojtyła further maintains that the apogee of this fulfillment in action manifests when action is performed together with others. So, actually, this self-fulfillment in action manifests in its fullness when we perform action with others as social beings. So it is very, very important to know this.